Welcome to Hindu Sanskriti with Vaishali Shah. I'm your host, Harleen Jabal. Namaskar, Vaishali.
Namaste, Harleen.
Today's episode's topic is about the gurus, the rishis, and yogis. What is the difference between the gurus, the rishis, the yogis, and the sant?
We are talking about the country which has been extremely about having a guru in life. All the traditions across India, in ancient time as well as current time, they all had gurus. Even the gods or maybe the avatar of Vishnu, Ram and Krishna, even they went to a school and they had a guru.
Okay.
So you can imagine the importance of guru in our life. There is a technical difference between all what you are asking for. The rishis were the first group of people who wrote down the Vedas, who shared the knowledge with their disciples. They initiated this system of Guru Shishya Parampara, wherein they passed out the knowledge from them to their disciples. And that is how the whole tradition continued in the country throughout this time. So, rishis are those initial group of people, and the main rishis were like the 7 rishis were Vishwamitra, Vasishtha, Atri, Gautam Maharshi, Jamadagni, Bhardwaj and Kashyap.
Okay.
You might be knowing that when we are trying to match the horoscope between two people for the purpose of marriage, we always see the Gotra.
Okay.
Gotra means the origin. Because it is believed we are the offsprings of those rishis. So, if we are the offspring of the same rishi, it means same gotra, we would not get married. So, you can imagine the importance of these 7 rishis in our life, because that is how the whole generation started. They got married and their children came, and then that is how we grew. But then in today's time, even in many cities and or communities across India, they don't want their kids to be married in the same gotra, means in the same lineage of rishi. And it is not a religious compulsion. It was because of science behind this genetics. You know that siblings, if they get married, the children are mentally disturbed or they have many other diseases. And it is always advisable not to marry your cousin or even a distant cousin. It's a tradition. So, similarly, they believed that getting married into the same gotra or of the same rishi lineage is not a good sign of a healthy child. And that was the reason this whole system of Sagotra marriage not happening, that is how this whole system came into existence. You said saint, which is sant. Sant is someone who come to the society to preach the scriptures. They reform the society. They help women. They help downtrodden. They want to bring new changes. So that is how the whole work of the sant, and at the same time they grow in spiritual path as well. Guru, as I said, is someone who shares the knowledge with you. So it can be anything, anybody. It could be your teacher in the school.
Yes.
Or even your parents are your gurus.
Like a mentor.
Yeah, like a mentor. And you have other people also who can teach you. So they are the one who are called gurus. And then there is yogi.
Yes.
Which you asked. Yogi is someone who has given up the materialistic life, who has left the house, who's wandering in the across the country, who wants to pursue only a spiritual path, who doesn't want any commitment, or he who doesn't want to get married or have further life, or even want to make living out of anything, and they just remain on the, or they just are dependent on the donations. So that is a cult of people are called yogis.
So, in the present day life, what is the role of then the rishis?
Rishis, as in for today's time, it is the knowledge which they have shared. If we can study ourselves and follow the principle, the work which they have done would be justified. They have left such a big legacy of knowledge through Vedas and other scriptures, and that is what our duty is, to carry forward it.
Then who are the acharyas of the Hindu society?
In the last episode, we did discuss about 5 main acharyas who came to the society in last 2000 years. So the first one was Shankaracharya ji, then Ramanujacharya ji, Madhvacharya ji, Nimbakacharya ji, and Vallabhacharya ji. So all these 5 acharyas, they propagated their theories of various scriptures, and they initiated various sampradayas. So Shankaracharya ji, again, as I said, he was the follower of Shiv, and he was believed to be the avatar of Shiv. So he propagated the Vedic scriptures and Shiv's Mahima. He wrote down so many scriptures. He wrote down many theories. So he propagated all that. So similarly, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Nimba, they had their own theories. They had their own preferred devta. They were followers of Vishnu. Vallabhacharya kept Krishna as the main deity, and Vallabhacharya ji introduced a very unique way of worshipping Krishna in a Bal Swarup, and he wanted to basically have this bhakti inculcated in us through Krishna, and he developed the whole process of Shringar Rag, which is music. So there are more than 100,000 pad written by various singers along with Vallabhacharya ji, and bhog, which is food. So the importance was given to the food because he wanted to have the importance of sattvic food, and that is how he introduced the whole series of sattvic food being offered to Krishna and then having it.
Then what is the concept of the Guru Shishya Parampara?
As I said, this is very unique to India, of having a guru where you send your children to a Gurukul and he teaches your kids all the Vedic scriptures and all. So this parampara, this tradition started millions of years back, ever since, as I said, when the rishis came into existence, and then they shared the knowledge. Even till today, all our scriptures and the knowledge which we had was preserved through this parampara in various Vedic schools, through this system of Shruti, as in after hearing it, memorizing it, and then reciting it again. So this process was followed for thousands of years, and that is how we preserved this knowledge. And that is the reason this custom or the system is really important, and it is called Guru Shishya Parampara.
Then we also have, obviously we're in modern times, you've got the modern day gurus and the yoga gurus. Who are they?
In today's time, there are different sect of spiritual gurus. They all have different things to propagate or share with the people. So yoga gurus are someone like Ramdev Babaji in today's time, who's spreading the knowledge of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, which is very helpful for our physical and mental health. And it also helps us to elevate us in spiritual path eventually. Then we had somebody like B.K.S. Iyengar, who propagated Hatha Yoga a few years back, and he has left a great legacy of knowledge of Hatha Yoga, and people are still practicing it. Then of course we have many other gurus like Sri Ravi Shankar ji, who's almost like a saint. He has promoted the various meditation practice in such a simple way that anybody on this earth can do it. So similarly, these are yoga based or meditation based gurus, and then we have many others who are into spreading the knowledge of scriptures, spreading the knowledge of our Guru Shishya Parampara, because they want to follow the traditions. Like we still have the lineage of Shankaracharya ji. We have 4 months, and there are four gurus who represent that mutt. Then all other sampradayas like Ramanujacharya, Vallabhacharya, they all have their representatives even till today, and it is flourishing and doing extremely good. Their job is to spread the knowledge, give the bhakti, uplift the downtrodden people, help women in being to help the society, and they are doing their job very well.
Then, in all these, we have the teachers, but we need students. So, is a devotee considered a student, or who exactly is a devotee?
Devotee is someone who believes in the deity which is being uh, introduced by the Guru. So, devotee is not necessarily a devotee of the Guru always, but he is a devotee of any uh, godly entity, as in maybe if you are a devotee of Krishna, then you go to
Okay.
Krishna temple. If you are a devotee of Shiv, you go to Shiv temple, right? So, devotee means bhakt in Hindi, and I feel all of us are a devotee in some or other ways, because we do worship our preferred deity and we want to get close to them. So, bhakti is the best way of doing it in today's time, and devotee is someone who is doing that.
From the saints, there's also what we know as revolutionary saints. Who are these revolutionary saints from India?
In last 200-300 years, because we had so many uh, changes happening in the society, because of which it was very difficult to keep the interest and keep the faith of the people in the same Sanatan Dharma or in the same system of worshipping or Hindu culture. So, many revolutionary saints who came and propagated, like for example Swami Vivekanand. He went to Chicago and he spoke about Hindu Dharma. The whole world just loved him because the way he addressed the conference, the way he sent out the message. So, similarly, we had another saint called Dayanand Saraswati, who was, though he was very much against Murti Puja, but he still helped lots and lots of women who were suppressed that time because of the temporary condition of the society. Then there is Gyaneshwar, who was born in Maharashtra, who propagated so much about bhakti, and he shared so much knowledge about various scriptures. Then Samath Ramdas and Tukaram. Those people who came in last few hundred years, they made a tremendous impact on the society. They uplifted the society and they helped a lot of people, and they were the one who actually saved the society from getting converted to other religion.
Then, who are known as the scientist rishis?
There are many like Aryabhat, Panini, Nagarjun. All those people were instrumental in bringing out the scientific theories of scriptures. Like Panini spoke about grammar.
Okay.
So, if somebody wanted to learn Sanskrit properly, the grammar was most important aspect of the language.
Then, who is known as a kathakar?
In today's time, we have many people, not necessarily coming from the Brahmin or a traditional school of families, but they go out and preach scriptures. So, they are called kathakar. They narrate the scriptures in a way of a storytelling so that audience understand. They want to connect with the people, they want to give out the message. They also share their experience with people about various kind of problems or issues happening in the society.
Then, what is the real difference between a priest and the yogi?
In Hindu society, Pandit, who's doing performing all the rites and rituals in the temple or outside for any yajman, are the one who can fall into the category of priest, as you are saying, and their job is of course to do all the ritualistic aspect of the Vedic system. You said yogi. Yogi, again, as I said, is someone who has renounced the world. They want to pursue their spiritual path. They are not with the family. They are always in the ashram, and they keep wandering, they keep studying, and they keep propagating the knowledge. So, priest is someone who can get married, but generally yogis don't want to get married because they don't want to take responsibility.
So, Vishali, in all of these, what is the role of women? Are women allowed to be a guru or a yogi for that matter?
In the ancient time, there were many Rishi Kanyas.
Okay.
They were called Rishi Kanyas, who were as knowledgeable as other rishis like Gargi, Madri, even Kunti, for that matter, was considered as a very knowledgeable woman. Then Draupadi. They were not Rishi Kanyas, but they were women with all the possible powers and knowledge of that time.
Okay.
So, in Indian tradition or Hindu tradition, women were never disallowed to study, or they were never deprived of any privileges which were given to men when it came to education. Lots and lots of did not study or did not want to study Vedas especially because certain mantras of the Vedas were such that it would create tremendous heat in your body, because of which your capacity to bear a child would reduce. And that was the reason why they were not encouraged so much. But there were many Rishi Kanyas or other women gurus who had taken up the sannyas or who had decided not to bear the child or get married or anything like that, though those were quite acceptable. Even in today's time, many of the Sanskrit universities have more women interested in scriptures than men, and it is quite acceptable. Nobody is questioning that why a woman wants to study Vedic scriptures, because currently we don't do too much of chanting like before. So that's the reason maybe women are able to adjust with the knowledge. But the question of inequality was never there,
Okay.
from the point of view of scriptures and even from the parampara.
And then, has there been any a case of a child prodigy as a saint, perhaps, or a rishi?
Yes, we have the example of Dhruv and Prahlad.
Okay.
They became devotee at a very young age. They worshipped their loved deity or a god the way they wanted to. They got the boon, they got the blessings, and they became the example for the rest of the world for so many thousands of years.
There has been the existence of schools known as Gurukul. Do they still exist, and can a modern day person pursue that education and still, have a very regular life?
There are quite a few Vedic schools and Vedic pathshalas exist. They are run by various sampradayas and other religious gurus, but they have the problem of students because it's not very easy to get the students. But those who pursue as in full time studies in the Vedic scriptures, you will be surprised that they can work as an IS officer, IPS officer, because that degree is equivalent to any master's degree, because the work and the knowledge which is being shared in the Gurukul is much more tough than our regular education system. So, their graduate would be considered more as a PhD in a normal education system, because of the work and because of the subjects and the way they have to study. So, because people do not know the potential job possibility after studying that, not many are pursuing it. But that is what I am, as I said, that is what I am here for, because I want to propagate Vedic pathshalas through my website and through my book series. This is what I am doing. We want all the pathshalas to get connected with our portal, hinduscriptures.com. We want people to understand the importance of this pathshalas. we all must need to support those pathshalas financially, because they are not always in a good shape.
Yes.
And we have to encourage more kids to go into that full-fledged education, Vedic education style of studying. I have a dream that I want to bring that knowledge into mainstream education in India, because if I don't want to be a engineer or a doctor or even commerce, and if I want to study something else which is more meaningful to the life, Vedic scriptures and this kind of studies is the most interesting to know about life and what is happening around us. So tomorrow if I want to send my kids, I should have that option, which is not there currently. And I am also trying that we help this Vedic Pathshalas so that they learn, people learn about scriptures.
So here's to a dream coming true. This is Hindu Sanskruti with Vaishali Shah. I'm your host, Harleen Jabal.